Hello viewers, welcome to CodeForAny Medicare app Backend API inside. Today I need to develop this here the user profile updates API we need to develop here. How to write down inside the Node.js. Let's start create here. First of all, we need to open this here the login controllers inside the Node.js codes. I need to how to find here. First of all, we need to explain here. We need to go inside here the controller folders. Inside we need to find out here these login folders. And now we need to create here the new API for the edit user details. Now need to write down here the app.post and we need to write down here API slash app slash user profile edit. Like we need to write down here and to create here the request response and we need to write down here the callbacks. Now, first of all, we need to print here the request body. We need to print here, and then after we need to save inside the request objects inside this value request dot body. We need to save here. Now we need to write down here helper dot dlogs, and we need to print this here the request dot body. We need to print here the parameters. Then after we need to save inside these parameters inside the variables is the request object is equal to request dot body. Like we need to write down here. First of all, we need to here check here the access token is are valid so or not. So we need to test here. Now we need to write down here the check dot access tokens and we need to give this here the request dot headers. We need to pass here and then after we need to give this here the response and response variables. Then after need to if here the valid then to return this here the callbacks. We need to write down here. We need to create here the function callback like here and no need to pass here the required parameters test because we need to here this API use this here the users, doctors, medical shops and hospitals. Like three for users we need to use this here the API inside the app. Like we need to write down here. Now we need to check this here the required parameters we need to checking here. So need to needs here the parameters required helpers dot check parameter valids. We need to give this here and to pass this here the response object here and now need to give this here the request object here. So need to pass here. Need to check here the specific this parameter since exist or not. So need to check here if are missing then to return this here the callback as a missing parameter servers can respond. Now we need to check which is parameters we need to need here. First of all, we need to need this here the first names like here. Then after another parameters we need to need this here middle name, mid name, underscore name. Then after last name, I know here the typo inside because we need to already give this here these names inside the database columns. That's why I need to not change this here the middle names typo. Otherwise, we need to make here the errors. That's why we need to same it is we need to accept this here the typo. Now we need to last dot underscore name need to needs here. Then after need to also need to needs here the email here. Here not modify here the mobile numbers because you need to letters need to give this here the how to change this here the mobiles need to different API need to develop here because need to also again need to verify here the mobile numbers if valid then need to modify otherwise need to not modify you need to give this here the access like we need to setting here the configurations and to set this here. Now here then after need to give this here the here experience also need to needs if here the this doctors then need to need this here the parameters here the year of experience so need to also need to past years. This is the optional parameter but we need to pass this here the blank value if here the not logins as a doctors. That's why I need to need this here the this value is experience we need to set here the experience type of need to fix this here experience like here so need to fix this here the typo to use this here the database column is good experience like here. Now then after need to also need to give this here the fee for these parameters for the doctors only needs here. That's why I need to put here and we need to set this here and like need these parameters and to save inside the database we need to updates. Now if here the values then to return this here the callbacks events we need to return and these functions inside like here we need to write down here. First of all, we need to check this here the valids is already checked and we need to get this here the objects here. So we need to get here the user objects. So we need to forget here the callback parameters names. That's why need to write here. Now we need to call this here the update API. We need to calls. We need to write down here the db dot query and we need to pass this here the query of the updates. We need to open here the already here the tables. We need to go inside here the select here the user tables and to go inside the SQLs and we need to select this here the updates. Then after we need to unused columns we need to remove here. First of all we need to user ID no needs we need to clean here. Mobile numbers also no needs we need to clean. Image also not needs need to clean here. Then after emails, password also not needs for the update profiles, fees needs, latitude longitude also no needs need to remove here OS types, authentication tokens, verification, user types, status, created date, modified dates also not needs only needs here the modified dates need to put here and now need to replace with here this value as a question mark need to pass here for this query because need to pass this here the value in query. Like we need to replace with here the value and we need to set this here also p inside we need to put here and also need to set this here the modify need to set here the now functions we need to call here like here and need to set here cut here. Now we need to close this. Now no need this here this query we need to put here and we need to wrap with here and to give this here the status not equal to deleted like we need to configure shares and also need this here the user id need to token verify after need to get this here the user objects need to needs here and to putting this here like we need to needs here now need to give this here the parameters and also need to returning this here the results and errors and results object callback we need to returning this here the functions like here. So now need to write down here the if conditions and to write here the request error and to write down here the helper dot throw HTML errors. We need to write down here the errors and response and return these functions. Now we need to write down here the results get this and to call this here the check here the affected row more than 0 means here the valid to updates successfully updated this data need to get here's. Now here's need to if here the valids then need to get here the again here this user data need to needs here first of all need to every parameters need to pass here first of all need to give this here the request object dot first names need to pass this here for this first parameters here then after need to give this here the request object dot mid name need to pass here then after last name we need to copy and paste this here then after need to set this here the mail then after you need to set here the year of experience then after request object dot space and we need to give this here the another parameters of the status not is equal to deleted states means here the 2 we need to set this here directly for the delete state. Then after we need to give this here the user id we need to set this here the user id we need to give this here the user objects for this value we need to, after verify here the access tokens, we need to get this here the this all this API need to get this here the user records, because we need to particular users need to updatings for the related this ID, and to give this here the user ID, we need to pass this years and this value. Now we need to, if here the fail this here the response not update this profiles inside the database, then to returning this here the server response, we need to give this here the response object dot json. So we need to call this here in functions, need to set here the status, set here 0. Then after we need to write down here the message, need to write down here the message is equal to, need to write down here the value message user profile update fail. Like we need to write down here and to set this here. Now how can get here the all new records? We need to already here the write down here the one functions get user details. Again we need to user ID to get here the user data. We need to get here. So now we need to write down here the get user details user ID. We need to pass this here user object dot user ID. We need to pass here, and we need to get this here the value inside the callbacks. We need to get here the user new object inside get this here the callbacks. Now we need to check this here the response. We need to check login inside already. We need to call here. We need to check here again. We need to get this here the is get select this parameters. We need to getting here. So we need to copy this response. Need to copy this here the functions, and we need to paste this here, and we need to replace with this here this value like here, and we need to pass here the data as once and to returning this here, and this API are the done. Now need to save and to write down here the user profiles edit API are the done, and tomorrow need to create this here the registers and medical shops, hospitals and doctors, how to registers inside register request for the show here the users. Need to create here the one request, how to create here the doctors, medical shop and hospitals. Need to write here and to set this here. If you like this video, please give the thumbs up. If you're new user, so please subscribe my channels and press the notification bell icon. You can get every new video notifications and awesome content. If you have any questions, so please write down the comment sections. I will help you and sort out your issue. Everyone have a nice day. Goodbye and take care.